everybody, thank you so much for watching. Welcome back to Rants and Headaches, and today we're talking about world-class piece of shit, Governor Greg Abbott, who, if you don't know, is the governor of Texas. Now, Greg Abbott is one of those Republicans who really advocates for about as strict abortion laws as you could possibly have. And people like him are why I really don't care to debate the subject of abortion anymore with people. For one thing, it's not about abortion. It is about being anti-women. And you are seeing so much of that in the legislation. If it was about abortion, they would just make their abortion bills and leave it at that. They are not leaving it at that. They are coming at other options for women across the board and calling it part of being pro-life. But even aside from that, they make it abundantly clear on a consistent and daily basis that they do not value human life. You don't value human life. If you do not value human life outside of the womb, then I do not care what your opinion is about human life inside the womb. And I came across this article that just really made my skin crawl. It's just amazing. There is no depth to this man's depravity. The title alone really says it. Abbott says Texans are not shooting migrants because Biden's administration would, quote, charge us with murder. Right, that's not Biden being mean, okay? If we use more than one brain cell, then we would understand that shooting somebody in an instance that is not self-defense, and really just because you want to, would in fact be murder. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, that would be murder. These people are so prone to violence, and so in favor of violence, and so against protecting innocent life, at any chance they can get, that they will openly, blatantly say that they want to murder certain types of people. And then they want to go to a March for Life rally and give a speech. Baby, I'll discuss being pro-life when you demonstrate that you were actually pro-life. These people do not value human life, and they make it so obvious. We can go back and forth all day about what their real motivations are with various pieces of pro-life legislation, but protecting people is not it. These people do not care about protecting anyone. Texas Governor Greg Abbott explained that murdering migrants is the only tool the state is not using to fight migrants on the border because the Biden administration would sue. One thing that's always been a bit disturbing to me and a lot of other atheists when you get into a discussion with a deeply religious person about morals, especially if that person says that the Bible is like the basis of all our morals, there is no other moral standard. There's some pretty horrific, awful things in the Bible. So if we really followed that, it would be a freaking disaster. But anyways, they often like to turn around and say, well, atheists don't have any moral standards, which is not really true, but they pretend that they can't understand that for the sake of arguing. And what they're left with is basically arguing, well, without God, people will just murder each other. People will just rape each other. People will just rob banks. People will just steal. Baby, you need to believe in a God in order to feel that those things are wrong. You need to believe in the existence of a God and threats that come from a God, okay, in order to believe that those things are wrong. And you want to lecture us atheists on morals? But the more people like this talk about potentially killing people, it's the truth. It's the truth. The only thing stopping me is the fact that I'd get in trouble. That's the only thing stopping you. That's the only thing holding you back. Baby, there's something wrong with your soul. You ever notice how people who go to church the most display on a daily basis that they do not have a soul? It's ironic as hell. Well, on the Dana Loesch show, go figure, look her up, the Texas governor said, we are using every tool that can be used, from building a border wall to building these border barriers to passing this law that I signed that led to another lawsuit by the Biden administration where I signed a law making it illegal for somebody to enter Texas from another country. The only thing that we're not doing is we're not shooting people who come across the border because, of course, the Biden administration would charge us with murder. It's the fact that he's acting like it's unfair to him and to Texans. Now, I will say this, the border situation being consistently out of control, I do think is bad for our country. A lot of people like to downplay it and act like it's It's racist if you want to talk about illegal immigration. If you don't just 100% support amnesty and nothing else, then you're just an awful person. And I think that kind of language is very, very harmful. To act like illegal immigrants pouring in through our border does no harm to our country, does not drain our resources in any way, it's just not realistic. And I think it's very easy for people who live in non-border states to go, the border isn't really a problem. But how are we supposed to support border states when the only thing they have to bring to the table are the most inhumane ideas possible? So for example, he mentions being sued by the Biden administration. In case you missed it, Greg Abbott had buoys put into the river with barbed wire put on them to try to prevent. Whatever you can do to hurt and kill people is basically A-okay with folks like Greg Abbott. That's pretty much just the general rule of thumb. Imagine wanting to see people get cut by this barbed wire in a river and drown because you put it there. If there was ever a devil in human form, it is this man. If I might get in trouble is the only thing stopping you from just blatantly murdering people, that is a major problem on a moral level. But also the thought of someone like that having any level of political power, let alone being a governor, is terrifying. What an evil scumbag. He was naturally condemned by several Democrats, which honestly, this is one of those things that is not a Democrat or Republican issue. You should be able to see what is wrong with this regardless of your political party. So anyway, several Democrats put out statements, one reading, "The only thing stopping Greg Abbott from ordering law enforcement to shoot migrant women and children are murder charges. Time and time again, Greg Abbott and Texas Republicans have made it abundantly clear they have no morality or humanity." Absolutely 100% true. And it really hurts their own cause because, like I said, ignoring the issues at the border is not good for this country. But I would much rather blatantly ignore all of the issues at the border than support an animal like this. He is nothing but a monster. Another statement said, "I can't believe I have to say murdering people is unacceptable." Greg Abbott, it's language like yours that left 23 people dead and 22 others injured in El Paso. The razor wire along the Rio Grande prompted another major fight between the White House and Texas governor. In December, the appeals court temporarily blocked the Biden administration's attempts to destroy the wire barrier, except in cases of emergency. Now, I will say I do not really have a problem with razor wire being used at all, to be clear, just because we use it on American citizens all the time. We put razor wire in places we don't want them to go all the time. So if you want to be part of America, I mean, this is how things happen here sometimes. So to be clear, I do not have a problem with razor wire being used on things like fences. Like if you have a chain link fence and then razor wire at the top. We have that on our prisons. We have that as part of a lot of security in a lot of different places throughout this country. And if you want to come into America and be part of America, you're going to have to be subjected to that. But specifically the razor wire in the river, knowing that you can cause somebody to drown, that's some bullshit right there. And for anyone who argues with people who get hurt trying to climb over the fence, I mean, I get that, but you're not supposed to be climbing over the fence to begin with, right? So the reason I don't have a problem with razor wire on the fences is because we do that to our own citizens. We are not singling anybody out who's an illegal immigrant in that method. But by putting them in the river, we are intentionally trying to injure them enough that they drown. That is sick. That is beyond sick. Speaking to Dana Loesch, Governor Abbott said, "In the history of America, have you ever seen a president try to prevent a state from securing his own safety? We laid down this razor wire, hundreds of miles of it, that was an effective deterrent and repelled migrants from entering the state of Texas." And you know, it's really hard to empathize with your position, Abbott, when you act like an absolute piece of shit. When you act like an absolute fucking monster. Abbott is the one that Texas needs to be protected from, not the migrants. Possibly the most repulsive politician that I think is actively serving, to my knowledge. The Department of Justice filed a lawsuit weeks after Abbott signed the law. It will become effective on March 5th and allows every Texas law enforcement officer to arrest those suspected of entering the U.S. illegally. Abbott also faced backlash for sending buses with migrants to Democrat-led cities, some alleged in the middle of the night or without any notice. Now, that last part I have mixed feelings about, because a lot of Democrats will talk about the border as if it's a complete non-issue. I don't think that helps anything. I really don't. And if you want to claim that you're a sanctuary city for illegal immigrants, then what is the problem with a state that has an issue with illegal immigrants sending you their illegal immigrants? If you're such a sanctuary city, then be a sanctuary city. At least be logically consistent here. That being said, some of these migrant buses have put migrants in very dangerous situations. One of them specifically, I think, was meant to go to Martha's Vineyard, and these people were out in freezing temperatures. Dude, I'm not going to take lectures from little bitches like this on pro-life. You are not pro-life. You do not care what happens to people. And one thing that I've noticed consistently about pro-lifers when it comes to people who are not American, they genuinely believe that if someone is not American, their life has less value. They seem to believe that as a matter of fact. They're not just going to outright say it, but if you listen to what they actually talk about and what they claim to stand for, it becomes very, very obvious. And I refuse to buy that. I refuse to stoop to that level. That is absolutely ridiculous. I have never seen such hostility to the rule of law in America. Biden is destroying America. Texas is trying to save it. By saying, gee, I wish I could shoot people dead without consequences. Oh, thank God you're here to save the country, pal. If anyone's gonna save us from the darkness, it's definitely you. At some point, you have to get past the moral outrage and just recognize the sheer stupidity of these people. Why do you think no one empathizes with your fucking position? Maybe it's because you're the most evil person on the fucking planet? Could that possibly be it? You want to talk about shooting? You're shooting yourself in the foot. You've lost support on every effort to deal with the border because of you. Nothing makes me want to allow amnesty more than listening to people like Abbott, because they are so cruel and so evil, and there is no limit to how depraved they can be. Baby, I don't want to support you and your idea of what you think enforcing the law should be. So yeah, people don't take Republicans seriously on this issue for a reason, because they will constantly suggest things that are evil and depraved. No, I don't want to support you in your cause. If you can't wrap your head around that, there's something wrong with your head. Because I want to cover pro-choice issues more heavily on my channel, you're probably going to hear me bring up Abbott quite a bit, because he really is one of the worst ones out there. There's no excuse for being this immoral of a person when you are in this kind of position of leadership. So for example, one of his abortion bills that he presented left no exception for rape, and he was called out on it. And his response was that he would simply eliminate rape in the state of Texas. Okay. So, let me see if I'm understanding this sheer stupidity here, okay? You have a way of protecting women across the whole state from being raped, and you haven't fucking done it? You haven't done it. You haven't done it. Greg Abbott has a lot of pro-life initiatives that I think are terrible. There are a lot of quotes I want to go over that are just pretty much just as bad as what we just covered. He is truly an evil, evil man. And that's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, half this video, or just a quarter of this video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe.